This week on Three Questions with Corey Kareem.
You know how the word says, many are called, but few are chosen.
Got you. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of us are called, but some of us don't answer the call. I answered the call. And then I got my jaw rocked. I know what it feels like to be overlooked. I know what it feels like to be called ugly, to be made to feel like I'm not beautiful. I also remember a time when this one woman came in, she was going on a date with a man, and she was just like, I want to look good. I'm coming from work. I feel so, And I was like, sit down. Let me just put some of this organic makeup on you, girl, and let's see what we could do. And I don't know what I was doing at that time. And when I did her makeup, she literally teared up. She was like, oh my God, I feel so beautiful. Like, I feel ready to go. I feel like ready for my date. I hope it goes well. I'll let you know how it goes and everything. And to me, when I experienced that with that woman, it made me realize that it was more than just makeup.
Never turn back. Only go clockwise. Never go back.
Now, before we get started with this beautiful conversation, please help a brother out and click on that follow button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Three Questions with Corey Kareem, the podcast where we sit down with some amazing people who are doing some amazing things. And that's right. You guessed it. We ask them 3 questions, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know. I read the comments. But rather than just talk about my guests, their wins or their successes, we tend to start the conversation off around their failures, their difficult moments, the trials, the tribulations, etc. So with that being said, my guest today is an award-winning celebrity makeup artist and beauty expert whose talent has graced red carpets, runways, and the faces of A-list stars. With over 14 years of industry experience and a client list that reads like Angela Bassett, Ava DuVernay, Notori Naughton, Garcelle Beauvais, and Tarana Burke, just to name a few, of course. Her artistry is a testament to hard work, faith, and unwavering dedication to her craft. From launching her own beauty brand or beauty line, which received Essence Magazine's Best in Black Beauty Award, to empowering young women and cancer survivors. So she does it all, y'all. Her passion for beauty, ministry, and community shines through in every stroke of her brush. See the play on words there? So without further ado, the Camara Aunique Helpsyes. And that's right. Her last name is really Helps. Welcome to the podcast, Camara.
Thank you. Hi, Corey. How are you? Thank you, podcast, for having me.
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. And yes, guys, her last name is really Helps.
Yes, it is.
That, I mean, there's got to be like maybe 2 of you in the yellow pages. I mean, the yellow pages don't exist anymore, but still.
We're telling our age right now.
There's got to be very few of you. And then to have a middle name like Aunique.
Yeah. And Camara. The name is pretty prophetic. I feel like like God is very specific on how he names. He's very clear on how he names someone. And I was like basically told to like look up the meaning of my name back in like 2020. Okay. And when I looked up the meaning of my name, Camara means teacher, Aunique means different. Janine is another middle name that I have, which means God's gracious. Right. And then helps others with her network and knowledge. Right. And so I feel like I'm kind of like walking in the alignment of what my name means.
Do you know if that was intentional by your parents?
I don't know if the meaning was intentional. I just think that my father wanted to name me something that was just unique and different. Right. And I think my heavenly parent, it was intentional for him to like drop it in their spirits to name me that. Yeah.
Got you. So Camara, I mean,
yes,
I know I gave you a little bit of an intro. It was a little bit of a lightweight intro. I had to, when I was doing my homework and looking you up, I mean, I could have read
the other day.
I could have read about you for about 2 minutes. I could have done a 2-minute intro. I had to really narrow it down.
Yeah.
So with that being said, is there anything that you believe that I missed about who you are, what you do, and what you're about?
Yeah, one thing that was missed, I am an author.
Mm-hmm.
So I am I wrote a book called, I have it with me right here.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book called Love Letters to My Daughters, and it's a 52-week devotional filled with prophetic love letters that the Lord wrote me. And then I just take women through, also men have read this book too, and it's helped them. So just remove the cyst and be like, hey, bro. But it is love letters that the Lord wrote me during one of my toughest seasons and of getting to know him.
Mm.
And so I just basically kind of walk women through learning and hearing the voice of God for themselves.
Mm.
And then also, what else? There's so many things about myself that I guess it'll all come out. I don't really like to talk about myself too much, which I'm learning. God is like, come on now, stop now. Because what I've learned too is that it's a little bit of a false humility that comes out, and it's not truly like being authentic.
Right.
And it's also not sharing the testimony of what he's done in my life. And he's done a lot in my life. So yes, I was the first faith-based beauty line to have a pop-up shop at Bloomingdale's and Short Hills Mall, which was amazing. I did a partnership with Ava DuVernay for my beauty line when it was named after her. Now my lash line is named after the women in the Bible. So it honors God and honors the women in the Bible. And then also, we won the HelloBeautiful.com's Melanin Beauty Award for best lashes. And then what else have I? Oh, I am also a partner with the Bible app. So I have a devotional on the Bible app that I partnered with them and did like the verse of the day and things like that. So, just being used by God in all things beauty and God. Let's just say that.
So you see what I'm saying, y'all? I could have literally read for 2 more minutes all those accomplishments, but it's fascinating. Now, you touched on something while you were kind of expanding upon all of your accomplishments, if you will. You touched on when you were going through some of one of your most difficult moments in 2020, I believe. So, if you remember the intro, a huge part of the 3 Questions podcast is to talk about failure or difficult moments, trials, tribulations. Because when I met you, to give you some context for my listeners, from my audience, I met Camara as we were at Ad Color, which is a conference for people of color that are in the advertising, marketing, and kind of media and creator space. And so that was in LA about 3 weeks ago, I think. Damn, time flies. And we met at kind of a networking mixer. So just to give you guys context. And so, Camara, with that being said, what was one of your most difficult moments, times? And with that specific experience, what did you learn from it? What happened? And most importantly, how did you overcome it?
I always go back to just 2020 was a very difficult time. It was also it was like a bittersweet time. It was the time that I basically, we shut down, the pandemic hit, and I felt like I was literally like, this is perfect timing. I'm going to start my podcast. I'm going to start this YouTube. I'm going to do all these things. God is going to use me. And next thing you know, I'm going like viral for, because Good Morning America and Fox News and all these news channels are talking about this celebrity makeup artist is going live every day. And she's teaching makeup. Like I was doing live, beauty series on Instagram. And it was great. Like it was like the amount of people that will come every day. I was like shocked, and they showed up every single day at 5:00. They didn't miss the beat with me. And I would just do different makeup looks and makeup, applications, but I will also end with talking about God. And when I did, I realized that I didn't really know much about God the way that I was thinking that I did. Like I was like, I really need to learn more about who this God is that I'm speaking on. And so I felt God wanting to pull me away. And so when everybody was going hard on Instagram, I shut down. I shut the Instagram down. And I told my followers, I said, I'm going to go and be a Mary and sit at God's feet. And I really want to just see what he wants to do. And during that time is when he started to teach me how to hear his voice in different ways, where he will show me places to go in my neighborhood. And I would go for long walks from my building to like the marina, and I would see different signs. And one of the things that that he would remind me of is when I received a prophetic word that I needed to move to Los Angeles. And I remember telling the prophet, like, I'm not going to LA. Like, I go to LA for work. It is not my cup of tea. I'm a Brooklyn girl. Like, I'm not even New York. Like, nah, that's not happening. And during the pandemic, all of a sudden there's like things going viral about LA and how LA, people in Los Angeles are like thriving during the pandemic because they have hiking, they got lemon trees, they got orange trees, they got mountains to climb and things that they can do at beaches that they can explore, and they can do things outside. And I was like, man, LA is looking real pretty. And so I felt led to ask God. I said, God, it feels like this, word is coming back to me about moving to LA. And I'm like, I don't want to go, but if you want me to go, I'll go. And in order for me to go, and in order for me to know that it's you calling me to go, I need a moving truck that goes from New York to California. I need to know if my clients are going to book me because I'm their number one makeup artist in New York, and they have a team in LA. And so I want to make sure that I could get in where I fit in, that I'm not like stepping on anyone's toes. And I also asked God to give me a place of where I would live. Know where I would live and just make sure the rent is paid. That's it. Like, let me know where I'm gonna live and make sure the rent is paid. And so with that being said, I went for a walk, and when I was coming back home from the walk, I bumped into the moving truck that said New York, California Express. Wow. And a month later, that same truck was leaving with my stuff. Now you would think that I'm leaving like I'm out because God is about to do something big to me and for me in LA, and I'm excited. And literally, I like to say, because the way that the Lord moved me, he gave me download of where to move, and the exact place to move, which was in North Hollywood. I didn't know at that time that North Hollywood was called the Valley. Okay. So I like to share that God kind of like walked me hand in hand into my Valley season. I see what's happening here. Okay. And I went into my Valley season. Yeah. I went into a season of pruning, a season of shedding, a season of realizing that I made my entire identity on being celebrity makeup artist Camara Aunique, and not truly just being Camara Aunique Helpsyes, who God has created to be a person that does makeup for celebrities. And when all of that shed, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything about myself. I didn't know I also was fighting it. I fought. So when you say shed, what do you mean by that? Shedding so you know how the Bible says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And then you know how the Bible also says, when God says, like, when we get to heaven, there'll be some of us that the Lord will say, depart from me, for I never knew you. Now the gap is that during that time that we're here on earth, he knew us before we got here. And now all of a sudden he doesn't know us. So what is it that we're doing in between that, so that now when he meets us in heaven, he's like, I can't even recognize you. Right. So he was shedding the things that culture, society, got you, that I picked up from generational stuff, personal stuff, what people have told me about myself. He started to shed those things, the ungodly beliefs that I had about myself, the beliefs that a lot of things that we're always told to believe in and to come into agreement with. He was shedding all of those things from me, and it was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. What's one of those things? I think one of those things, one of those things that he shed for me, well, of course, was the belief of my identity being based on my title as a celebrity makeup artist. That was like the first thing that had to go. Another thing that I think that he did was my character, making sure that I was walking in the fruits of the spirit, where I am providing joy, love, peace, kindness, to others, now I'm in the position where I'm learning now how to love myself through the fruits of the spirit. Right? I'm learning that for me now, but now I know how to steward people better. So it's not a more opportunistic kind of relationship. It's more of a relationship on how we can build together.
Right.
What is it that go ahead.
No, I get it. I think one of the things I want to get to, because I know 2020 was this moment for a lot of people, but I wanted to know if there was something, because usually when people have this, for lack of better words, I know it's a cliche, come to Jesus moment, if you will. It's because of something tragic or something almost like life altering that happens. Was that your kind of scenario, or not so much?
Oh, how I found God?
Well, you said in 2020 there was a kind of like this big shift for you.
So the finding of God was going on 8 years now, but that 2020 was more of me putting both feet in. I think one of the things that I was doing was I was still doing a lot of things that was outside of the will of God for my life. And one of those things was I was still smoking weed. I was still having sex. I was still doing a lot of things that God was like, yeah, girl, like, are you going to give me all of you, or are you going to still have some of you left over in these places here? And so when I put both feet in, that's when I really gave God a serious yes to the walk. You know how the word says, many are called, but few are chosen.
Got you.
And so a lot of us are called, but some of us don't answer the call. I answered the call. And then I got my jaw rocked.
and what? Let's talk about the jaw rocking. I love the transparency. So let's talk about the jaw rocking. How did you get knocked out?
It was a very hard transition. Going to LA, I had no community around me. The only time I saw people was when I was with clients. I also didn't know how to drive at that time. I moved. So I had to learn how to drive in LA, which was the best thing that happened for me. I'm happy I learned how to drive in LA.
So you was a real New York girl.
I was like, I'm not learning how to drive. I don't need no, I got Ubers. I'm fine. I'll take the train. I'm good. Now I'm like, where's my car? Like, I'm not, but I learned how to drive. I went through, because of course, as a makeup artist, we weren't working. So the only amount of money that I had was to pay for my rent and my food. So my bills, all of my cards went unpaid. So my credit went from I think it was like a 780 at a time, right at COVID. And then by the time like September, October hit, I was at a 480.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Went to the valley. Then I had to move. I moved about the first move when I was living in the first apartment. That apartment became infested with flies and roaches. It was just weird. It was a weird experience. I don't want to get deep into it because I think it has to do with a lot with spiritual stuff that I cannot really explain. And I don't know at the capacity of where your people, the followers are. So I don't want to get people, but it was a spiritual attack. Then after that, I moved. So the first apartment, I moved out of that apartment. Someone tried to break in at 3:00 in the morning. Then I went to God. I said, Lord, you moved me here. You got to move me out. So the credit is low right now. So I need you to do something. Then he says, go look for an apartment around the neighborhood. I go walking around the valley on a hot September day. And I'm walking around and I get approved for an apartment about like 3 blocks away from that place. I get approved. I moved into that place. Things are still not as, the way I would hope it to be, but I'm still trying, still pushing through. At that time, what happens to me? I go for a walk. I get punched in my face by a homeless man.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. LA. It's LA. But that's what triggered me to say, you know what, let me go and learn how to drive and get a car. So I walked into Mercedes-Benz with a 500 credit score. And they was like, girl, bye. They were like, girl, bye. So then I drove off in a Hyundai.
Talk about walking by faith right there.
I walked by faith and not by sight. Went to Audi after, and Audi was like, girl, bye. And then I went to Hyundai, and Hyundai was like, girl, take this car and shut up. And I took the car and I shut up. And then after that, I moved a third time into another apartment. So in under a year, I moved 4 times.
In LA.
In under 1 year, I moved 4 times. There's deeper things that happened that I won't get into, but that I'm not ready. Like, that's not the timing to share. But it was just an experience that had me saying, God, you don't like me. Like, I used to literally say, like, God, he loves me, but he don't like me. Like, and I used to literally say that out of my mouth. And I know I hurt God's feelings when I used to say things like that. And that also shows the immaturity of where I was in my walk, of not really knowing God's character. But I also realized that I was, when I look back at that time, because the last apartment he moved me into is when things started to pick back up in my career. My credit went back from from like a 511 now and zoomed back up to a 780 again. I was able to get my Mercedes. I was able to, pay off a lot of things and get back on my feet. And, things were moving again and shaking. And I was like finally finding my groove in LA. And when I look back at it now, because he moved me back to New York at the end of 22, he said, go back. Brought me back to my old apartment that I left, which was this beautiful apartment in Jersey City that had like the views of the city and floor to ceiling windows and a massive balcony. And I was like, yeah, I was paying $2,500 for it. And now I'm paying $37,000 and it's great. Then I get hit with the strike. And then I'm like, oh, with a $7,000, paying for my lifestyle a month, this gotta go, like it was a lot. But I look back at it now and I look back at everything. And for me, where I'm at today, I said the biggest thing that I learned from that, is to not, is as a butterfly. Cause a lot of us are like, we go into this cocoon. The valley season is like a cocoon. It's a cocoon season. It's a season where God kind of tries to form you as the butterfly that you are. And one of the things that he gave me, even yesterday, he just gave me this. He said, you were trying to come out of your cocoon fast. And so too soon. And so when you try to come out of the cocoon too soon, your wings are not fully developed. Some of it have holes in it. And the spots are not where it needs to be. The beauty of the butterfly is not fully complete yet. And so that is why I got attacked so much, is because I tried to step out too soon. I wanted the process to happen on my timing and not God's timing.
Right.
And so that would be the biggest lesson that I learned, was though it was a rough season and it was something that he wanted to do in a beautiful way, he still is doing it in a beautiful way. Because I could testify to it now and see the glory of God in it. I didn't see it. Now I'm able to see, oh, it was me. Because we love to blame God. Like, God, you just didn't want to bless me. Like, you didn't want to do this. And he's like, no, I did. You just didn't want to sit down and do it my way. And so I wish that I did it his way and not my own. But I'm happy I did it my own way, because now I can share with others. Like, don't do it your way.
Right.
Do it his way.
So how do you know when it's because I at least my interpretation of your story, and thank you for sharing that, of course, is not trying to get out of the valley prematurely, right? You said fully formed, until your wings are fully formed. So did you know when it's time? How does one know? For everyone that's listening, for the people that are listening that could be in a valley right now, and they do have this urgency to get up, because obviously being in the valley sucks, right? Yes. Right. So how does one know when they're acting prematurely?
Yeah, it sucks. It does suck, but it doesn't. But when our perspective shifts from asking God, what is it that you're trying to show me and teach me in this season, it actually makes it a more fun experience.
I like that perspective. Okay.
Perspective. It's all on your perspective, and it's all on partnering with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
So how are you partnering with him for your valley season? Right. I think what it was the resistance. When you feel resistance in doing something and you don't feel ease into it and you don't feel peace into it, then it's not time yet.
Ooh, okay. That's a good nugget. And by the way, valley season, you should hold on to that. Maybe that's a branding for something that you could be working on in the future.
I am. I'm going to teach on it. Yeah. I ain't going through it for nothing.
I love that. Okay, so moving on. Why makeup?
Oof.
Where does that passion and inspiration come from?
So I look back at this, was the year that Michael Jackson died was 2009, right?
Yes,
That's
I
how.
remember that.
So
Mhm.
I've been in makeup since like 2007, 2006. And so yeah, like around 2006, 7, yeah. And so I was working at Macy's 34th Street around the time that Michael Jackson passed away. And I was working at this like location called the Beautiful Planet. And I was in between the two MAC. Like there was the MAC at that time was like the huge makeup brand for
Mhm.
it was a big makeup brand, and I was in between the two makeup brands, two stands that they had, and the MAC girls would walk past, and I'll be like, oh my god, they're so like amazing! I want to work for MAC so bad, and I remember the girls being so mean to me. And no one wanting to teach me. I also remember a time when this one woman came in, she was going on a date with a man, and she was just like, I want to look good. I'm coming from work. I feel so, ugh. And I was like, sit down. Let me just put some of this organic makeup on you, girl, and let's see what we could do. And I don't know what I was doing at that time. And when I did her makeup, she literally teared up. She was like, oh my God, I feel so beautiful. Like, I feel ready to go. I feel like ready for my date. I hope it goes well. I'll let you know how it goes and everything. And to me, when I experienced that with that woman, it made me realize that it was more than just makeup. It was more than me just putting something on someone's face. It was building of of confidence that women need. Because one of the things that God is teaching me with makeup right now is that a lot of women are hiding behind makeup.
Right. I was just gonna get to that, but okay, you're going there.
Pull back then. I will pull it. But we're hiding behind it. We're hiding behind makeup to hide certain insecurities within ourselves. And so why I chose makeup, I didn't choose makeup. I can just be very honest. Makeup chose me. God put me in this. It was something that he was like, you gonna do this. And I look back at the times when the people that were mean to me, that didn't want to teach me, and how the Lord basically taught me a lot. I did not have any training, and I didn't go to school for this. It was literally like me just being thrown into celebrity makeup. I was thrown into it. And I literally learned from trial and error. And
So
I learned.
you were thrown into it based on the location that you worked at, like a lot of celebrities just happened to come by.
No, I just knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of people, and one of the strategies that I did was I worked in strategic places. So I did work in Macy's 34th Street. Then I moved to North Carolina for a boy, thought it was my man, and was like, no, go back home. Then I went to Lord & Taylor's, worked at Lord & Taylor's for about a year. Lord & Taylor's told me I was working for Estee Lauder. They told me I needed to make $250,000 in sales. I end up making $350,000 in sales, meeting June Ambrose, telling June I want to be her makeup artist. She says, I only work with the best. I said, you watch, I'm going to become one of the best one of these days. Then I meet Bobby Brown from Bobby Brown Cosmetics, and Bobby says to me, you remind me of myself. And I say, you should let me work for you. And she said, you should come work for me. And it never happened. But I was like, one of these days I'm going to be like Bobby Brown. Not realizing that I was like speaking, like, let there be light. I don't like to say manifest, because I don't want to take it to a new age practice, but more of like manifesting God's will for my life on earth. And didn't realize that I was speaking life and saying, speaking what God wanted for me to have on this earth. Within 5 years, I became June Ambrose's makeup artist and reconnected to Bobby and all this stuff. So I worked at different locations that was very strategic. Being also time, like I worked at, after that, after I left Estee Lauder, I went to MAC in Henry Bendel, telling how old I am. And Bendel's was like a beautiful store on Fifth Avenue. That was amazing. I took over Sir John's position, not realizing that this whole team that I'm with, we're all basically killing it in the makeup industry right now. Like everybody's killing it and doing amazing things. We closed down that Bendel store. Then everybody went over to Times Square. And when I was at Times Square is where I met Mickey Taylor. And I met Mickey Taylor she was one of the lead people at Essence at that time. And Mickey came in and looking to get her makeup done. And basically she asked for her makeup to get done, and everybody was like, I'll do it. And I was like, let me just step back. And she looked at me and she said, no, I want you to do it. And I was like, me? And she says, one day you're going to be a big makeup artist, and I'm going to be able to say you touch my face. And so I like to call those things, those steps that I've gotten to get to that place, is God winks. God was just winking at me of the places that he would send people to speak into my life, and he would send certain things to happen to show me where I was going. But most of the time we don't, because we're so focused on getting to the future, that we don't sit and focus on what's happening in the present time. So when I'm ministering to someone, or when I'm mentoring someone, I tell them, what is happening to you right now that you can say God is winking at you about what he's about to do for you in your future. Don't try to catch up to where I'm at yet, because the mantle I carry, you're not ready to carry that. Right. But the mantle that you have and what God has placed within you, what is it that you can look at and say, God is winking at me and is telling me I'm getting to that, like he's getting me to the place that he's called me to.
That's so good. I love that kind of metaphor, if you will. And I know you don't mean it to be like a metaphor, but what came to me, what came to mind actually was when those opportunities came up. When, for example, what was that celebrity that came by that most the most recent one that came by and said, no, I want you to.
Oh, Mickey Taylor.
So when Mickey Taylor said, no, I want you to do it, what I thought about in that specific moment is, how many times do we get opportunities or situations like that come up, but we shy away from it because of X, whatever reason. And then one of the things you hit on, Camara, was talking about what kind of grew your passion for makeup, and realize it's more than just putting makeup on, young ladies' faces, is that you saw how it gave them a sense of confidence, sense of pride. And I think about the times that we get opportunities as individuals in our respective lives, and we shy away from it because maybe it's lack of confidence, maybe it's insecurity, or whatever the situation is. So I really thought that was very interesting, that you were ready for the call, right? Yeah. But I feel like some people, we cheat ourselves out of that opportunity because maybe we feel like we're not ready, but we actually are ready.
I think more than anything, I was always ready for the call, because I know what it feels like to be overlooked. I know what it feels like to be called ugly, to be made to feel like I'm not beautiful. And so one of the things that I have a set of my compassion for women, especially, I do men's grooming also. But my compassion for the women that I'm called to is to make sure that they see their beauty through the eyes of God, so that when I'm done doing their makeup, I'm not changing their look so that they can't recognize themselves, but I'm enhancing them in a way that I feel that the Lord wants them to, like how he would want them to look when they're in heaven.
Right. So let's just say that you did get a client that says, I want to look like that person. Are you having a small talk, or are you just kind of just completing the assignment?
I have a small talk.
What does that kind of sound like?
I have a small talk. I would basically say, well, why don't we make you look like you? I like the way you look. I love your nose. I love your eyes. I love your lips. I love the fullness of your cheeks. I love your smile. I would basically encourage them in how they look and tell them how beautiful I see them.
Right. So do you feel like, I don't want to be like hyperbolic here, but do you feel like there's a little bit of, forgive me for this word, a little bit of an epidemic in the sense that online, if I'm using social media here as kind of a proxy, that there's a lot of people, not just women, really trying to be something they're not, but using makeup as that way? Do you feel like there's something happening that needs to be kind of course corrected, or do you kind of all just look at it as freedom of expression or art or what have you?
I think everybody's hiding their true identity. I think there's a lot. I ain't gonna go. I know you said get deep, but there's some things that
I got you
to talk about. It's not the time to talk about, but I think that a lot of people are hiding their identities. I think that we have to be comfortable. Like, I'm very comfortable in coming on with no makeup on. I'm very comfortable wearing my natural hair. There's times when I'll have even the other day, the Lord had to check me because I've been wearing a weave for but I wore the weave honestly for a protective style just to let my hair grow. And I was like, the Lord gave me a dream. he's so clever. Like he is, when I tell you he'll come for you. He gave me a dream where I had a dream that I was like, oh, I went to my hairstylist. I was like, I want to take my weave out and I want to like wear my hair and put clips in and everything. And the hairstylist was like, you don't need clips. You just need to wear your hair. And when I took my hair out, it was down to my back. So I go to the hairstylist and I take the weave out and she literally, flat irons my hair and it's literally past my shoulders. And I'm like, like this is the longest my hair has ever been. And I was like, God, it was like preparing me for that. And I remember before I went, I said to God, but God, this look is like my signature look. And he said, I'm your signature look. If you're made in my image and likeness, I'm your signature look. And I said, ooh, you checked me. Checkmate, you win. Say less. You are my signature look. And I was like, let me just wear my hair. And I've never been I'm not uncomfortable wearing my hair. It was just a main of saving money for me of like not having to get my hair done every 3 weeks or, just wash it and change it out. And, and it was for me, like, I'm like, God, I'm trying to save my money. I ain't trying to go to the hair salon every week. And so he's basically just like, no, take your hair out, wear your natural hair, embrace the natural hair, speak life over your natural hair. But I don't want to like my thing of sharing on God and beauty is not to make women feel like you cannot wear these things or to make people feel like makeup is not something that God is like, it's vanity. It only becomes vanity when you make it your identity and when you make it a idol, right? That's when it becomes vanity. But we also look into the Bible and we think about Esther. God made it very clear in the book of Esther that he took Esther through a year of beauty treatments before she was presented to the king. So when a woman is adorning herself in beauty, it's something that God likes, God appreciates, because he appreciates us taking care of our vessels. It's even with men. He appreciates us taking care of our vessels and taking care of our appearance and how we look and how we show up. Because when we show up, we are showing up in his image and likeness. So when you see me, you're supposed to see him first, right? It doesn't mean that I'm trying to hide him because I put on a lash. He told me to come out with a lash line. The reason why he said come out with the lash line is because one of the things I was made fun of when I was growing up was my eyes. People made me feel like my eyes were ugly. And God was like, no, I called you with these big old eyes because you're a seer and you are my prophet. And
perspective.
And you are my prophet. And so it made me embrace it even more and say, this is who God has made me to be. I love my eyes. I love the size and the shape of my eyes. And I'm going to help women see their beauty through the image and likeness of God through this beauty product.
I love that. Such a good mission statement. I don't know if that's it, but I mean,
it is.
There you go. All right. So staying in the lane of makeup here for a second.
Yeah.
Why do you believe most makeup artists fail or kind of struggle to make it? Because I know a few and they're talented, but it seems like, a lot of industries are tough, right? Yeah. Let's just be clear about that. But why do you believe, based on your 14 years of experience and you've risen to the top, right? Why do you believe most makeup artists fail?
Because a lot of makeup artists have made it about themselves and about becoming the celebrity makeup artist and known for their following and not known for actually, like, they have taken away servitude from it. You're a servant. And so when you remove self and you remove your you're wanting to be in a person's, connected to a particular celebrity or connected to anything that it's when you make the whole mission an idol, you miss out on what the mission is and what the assignment is. And the assignment is that God trusts you with his children. He is trusting you to groom. He is trusting you to be a safe place for a person to get ready. And so a lot of them miss out on what the assignment is and make it about them. So they go in thinking like, high and mighty. They think that they're the talent, and they forget that you're actually the servant. The talent part comes when people call you outside of that. But when you're with the person that you're working with, right? When you're with that client, like when I'm with Miss Pauletta Washington and with Angela Bassett, I'm not putting a camera in their faces. I'm not here setting up like there's a few makeup artists that went viral on TikTok for putting filming a person's wedding, and the person says, "Hey, please don't film my wedding. I don't want you to do that." Well, this is my makeup and my work, and if nobody knows that I'm doing
right.
this, and what's the sense of you're getting paid?
Right.
Half of the stuff that I do, I don't even post because I'm in Denzel and Miss Pauletta's house, and I'm not going to post their home.
Right.
Or if I'm in, Angela Bassett's home and she's like, "Hey, don't share that. I don't want them to know like what I got here." I have to respect that.
So I don't know if you've ever heard this. I heard this saying how did the person say it? It didn't, if you didn't capture it, didn't happen, or something like that. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I think you get the gist of what that means. Cause in this day and age, everyone's trying to capture content, right? So it's like, if you didn't capture it, didn't happen. And so for that kind of up and coming makeup artist that, hasn't,
create your own content, create it. I did Mariah Carey a couple times. I don't have any content to show it. You think I want to go to Mariah and say, "Nobody gonna know I did your face. You got to let me film this." Are you crazy? Like, are you crazy? No. Like, and this is also my next thing that they need to learn how to do. Read the room.
Yep.
Learning how to read a room. Learning how to read the room. You want to be friendly and too connected to a person, especially a person of a certain status, way too soon. Social media has made people, even now I'm looking at my this post going viral, and these young ladies are literally like, "We should partner together and we should do this." And I'm like, you don't even know me. We're not friends. We're not friends. We're not partners in any way. If God sends me to someone to partner with, then I'll know when it's somebody that I partner with and what I'm discerning to do. But if God is calling me to go and serve somebody, I'm going to humbly serve that person, build trust with that person. I am somebody that is in someone's, I'm in their
space. Yeah.
Their space.
Yeah.
We are someone that is in their space. Their space is something that is precious to not only them, but to God, who is their Father. How are you protecting that space with your spirit? So if you come in thinking that I'm here to do this and I'm sent and I got to do this and I need my content, then you're going to struggle in your career. If you keep making it about you, what I had to learn was let the person say, "Let's take some videos. Oh my God, I need to take some videos of this. Look, I look so amazing. Can you do that for me?" Why are you one of makeup artists did a video where she did Glorilla's makeup. And she did a video of her, the before and after, and recorded her in a way that it didn't look like the girl. And then she went and proceeded to post it. There's not one video in my phone that I do not ask my client first, "Are you okay with me posting this?" Why? Because I have compassion. Why? Because these people that I work for, their image is literally their jobs.
Right.
And so if I go out of my way to ruin their image when I'm actually called to help enhance their image, you're not ready for this position. This is also why another mistake that a lot of artists do is that they don't go and they don't get proper discipleship. They don't get proper mentorship. They think they go in as the boss. They go in, they're charging these celebrities $75 for a face. And then I wonder why me as a $500 and $750 artist is now being offered $400 for the day because the last makeup artist made a mistake of charging $400 a day when they actually had a $3,000 budget. You don't have proper discipleship and mentorship, and you don't know how to humble yourself to learn from someone because you want to be the boss. So now I have to go and correct your wrongs. And I have to tell these people $450 for an 8-hour day does not make sense of someone of my caliber.
So good.
And so now you have to find the money and pay me my $2,500 to $3,000, maybe $5,000 for the day. Because they took that money that they already had budgeted before and they put it in other places. But they already had a budget for artists of over $1,500 and plus. So makeup artists make a lot of mistakes. Hairstylists too, they make a ton of mistakes, but it's not, I also look at the, my peers that I came up with. I came up with a lot of people that are amazing, wonderful artists, but because a lot of people have had heartbreaks and they've experienced a lot of heart issues, right? A lot of trauma when it comes to connecting with other artists and connecting with people. They have not done their due diligence in mentoring other people and doing the heart healing and the work that needs to be done within themselves so that they can now pour into others. So I kind of blame it on my generation too of artists that I came up with, that no one has actually looked back to say, hey, let me teach you the way. But right. I also recognize the resistance when you want to pull in an artist, that they actually come in like they know it all.
Right. No, I love that. And I want to get back to that. So, but before I move on, you talked about what makeup artists are doing wrong.
Yeah.
So what are 1 to 3 hacks they can do to, like, if you're like, you got the experience, maybe you worked at Sephora or some of these other brands and you're stepping out on your own. What are 1 to 3 hacks that person can do to kind of get to the next level?
Customer service. Literally learn customer service, not make it about you, and understand that you are a servant. And being a servant doesn't mean that you show up ugly or not ugly. Let me correct that you show up with your appearance looking any way. You don't dress the part. You show up as who you are. You put a face on. You dress appropriately. You cover up. No one wants to be with somebody in front of their face with their cleavage in your face, right? So you dress a certain way that's professional and respectful for the artist that you want to become and who you want to be. And you be quiet, read the room, speak when spoken to, give advice when asked, and then they'll trust you enough to say, for you to be able to open your mouth when God says, now it's time to talk. It's kind of like how Esther, I always go back to Esther. I'm always going to go back to Esther because that book of Esther could teach us a lot. Esther did not go into the kingdom. She knew she was a Jew. She knew she did not belong to be on the list to become queen of this kingdom. But she went in anyway, and she was very clear and kind to the servants of the king. This is what gave her favor. But she was also clear to not share who she was and what her real name was. She wasn't sharing her identity too soon. She knew at the appointed time of when to share who she was, and that's when she received the favor from the king. So it's just knowing your times and seasons and understanding when to discern a room and how to read the room so that you're not giving away what the assignment is before it's time.
I like that. So good.
I hope I'm making, is it?
Yeah, it's making a lot of sense. A couple of beats that I'm picking up is service to many. I once heard someone say service to many leads to greatness, right? So having an attitude of servitude.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
and then
you can't be a true leader if you don't know how to serve, because a true leader knows how to teach others now how to serve them.
Right. And so actually, what do you say to someone? Because obviously you're at the top end of the scale when it comes to the industry, but and I get that someone has to do their time and with the quality of customer service, but what do you say to that person that, how do I phrase this? The money that they're able to charge does not justify their means, their way of living. Is it just rinse and repeat, just living off of referrals like that. That's the part that I think like a lot of people in your industry that are in that kind of in between phase, they're like, I want to get to the place where I'm charging thousands of dollars per day versus 500 or whatever the amount you mentioned earlier. Like, is it just repetition and just getting your name out there, and how do they get up there, increase their rate?
Mentorship, getting under someone that is at the place that you want to be.
Literally.
Yeah, it is, because a person like myself is not going to trust you with Angela Bassett when I'm not in New York if you haven't been under me. I'm not going to give you that.
Got you. Mentorship. Okay.
Mentorship, coming humble, coming ready to learn, being okay and willing to hear the feedback, because I'm going to give the feedback. I had a young lady that I brought in to do, I was doing the Met Gala for one of my clients. That's the commissioner of New York. And she, she's a friend of mine. And she was like, yo, girl, I need you to do my makeup. I'm like, all right, well, I can't stay with you. So I'm going to have this young lady that, wants to be mentored by me. Let me get into the story.
I love it. Let
me get into the story. Let me tell you how God moved and how the girl missed it. Because you could miss your blessing.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that I'm saying this in the most humble way. So the Lord, I'm in Brooklyn. I get my hair done to go with my client, my friend Victory Boyd, to Rock Nation's. Rock Nation is having this thing at the library where they're honoring Jay-Z. So I'm getting ready to go and meet her at the Brooklyn Public Library. Before I go, the Lord says, go to get your car washed. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to this car wash because it's close to me. God says, nah, go to this car wash. I say, okay, God, I'm going to go to this car wash. I go to that car wash. There's a young lady in front of me with a baby going through the car wash, right? They pull up my car and I go in, right? I go to pay. Before I could pay, I see the young lady can't pay because her card declines. I said, the Lord says, now pay for it. So I said, okay, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll pay for it. So I pay for her car wash and my car wash, right? So then at the end, she starts speaking. She starts telling me how she's basically a makeup artist. And she doesn't have the money, and she's starting her career, and God called her to this. And I said, my God. I said, well, let me introduce myself to you. I'm Camara Aunique. I'm actually a celebrity makeup artist as well. And the Lord is literally sent me here. I was going to another car wash, and God sent me here for you. I caught it, right? So I keep in touch with the young lady. I lose her number somehow. So I go on Instagram and I say, hey, I met this young woman. I need her information. If anybody knows her, whatever, or if you followed me, please comment so I could get your information. I get her information. She says it's me. We connect. So then after that, I get the opportunity to bring her on board with me. So now the way that my Instagram, how Instagram has been right now, the algorithm is looking like everybody paid for their followers and whatever. So my algorithm looks like I paid for my 55,000 followers, and it looks like I paid for my blue check, which I did not do, right? Because literally I could post something and I'm getting 50 likes. And I'm like, God, they're not going to believe me. Like, they don't believe me. He's like, I don't care, post it. And I'm like, okay. So I call homegirl up and I asked homegirl if she would love to come. I would love to have her assist me in Brooklyn with my client, which is my friend. Because I said, this is my first time working with her. So I'll have her with my friend. My friend will give me the deets on what the tea is with this young lady. And so I said, my friend is a commissioner. She's going to the Met Gala. All I need for you is just to touch her up. Done. Nothing like if it needs touch-ups. She probably won't even need it, honestly. Long story short, I finished the makeup, and within 40 minutes, I run back to my other clients that I had to do because I was doing a shoot with Luke James and some other like a cover shoot that I was doing with them. And this young lady stays, with the client for like about an hour, 2 hours. After that, I say to her, I thank her for, for staying with me. And I say, so how much? So just to test her, just to test her, because I had the means to pay her, and I had what I had in my head to to pay her for the touch-ups and everything. And I said, what would you charge me to assist me for this? And she says, well, I touched up her lip. That's $50. I also touched up her powder. That's another $50. I also put lotion on her legs. That's another $75.
Well, damn.
I also stayed for 2 hours. So that is $25 a piece. So basically putting lipstick and lip gloss on somebody costs more than your time. Copy. And I was literally like, and I said, this is why God sent you. You really need to learn.
Direction. Yeah.
And I said, well, this is what I had for you. And she was like, yeah, but when she gave me the bill was like literally the amount of money I got paid for the job.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, you didn't even do the job. Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And you didn't even read the room to see what you were learning in this process. On top of it, you came and you opened up your kit, and she opened her kit and it was filled with filthy brushes. The brushes were filthy. There was not one clean brush. And I said, you're going to put that on my client? No, you cannot put that on my client's face. She was like, oh, I just used them the other day. What? And you want to charge me how much to assist me? Baby girl, you should have been like, Cam, just off the humble of me being here, let me just learn from you. You came with filthy. When I tell you the brushes were like the dust in her kit, I was so embarrassed for her, but I was also embarrassed because for me, because you're a representation of me now. But of course, thank God this was a friend. You understand? And so my friend was looking at like,
what's wrong with you? Who's this girl? Mm-hmm.
So this is where I talk about that's how they miss the mark, and how you can miss your blessing and miss your opportunity, and how the experience that God has presented for you, and a blessing that would have been a blessing, because I would have taken her on. I would have taken her under my wing and made it to be like, come, let me teach you all the things. Let me show you how to wash your brushes, because one of the things that I teach people is how to pray over your brushes and wash and remove all of that. Because as you're putting that brush, which is a wand, you're putting literally a brush over somebody's face, and you're taking the same spirit that the other person had, and now you're placing it on another person. It's more than just makeup. This is spiritual.
Wow. I never would look at it like that, but I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it.
Anyway, so that's.
But you know what, though? One of the things that I do appreciate is that you say that you want to be to young people who you needed growing up. I think when I read that about you, that's one of the things that resonated for me, because I try to do the same thing for folks. I try to be who I always wanted people to be to me on my way up as well, because I always feel like I don't want to isolate it to our community, but there's a lot of gatekeeping sometimes.
God, yeah.
And there's also that kind of this attitude like, well, I figured it out, well, you got to figure it out too, and I get that you want people to kind of earn their stripes, so to speak. But I love the fact that you're open to mentorship. In fact, I feel like you take it as a calling to kind of mentor someone that has a lot of potential. And I can see that from the stories that you've been sharing with me so thus far over this past 45, 50 minutes that we've been talking.
Yeah, I when I came up as an artist, I feel like I was kind of thrown in. And going through that experience was not easy, because I made a lot of mistakes. And so my goal and my vow to God was, God, if you would bring the right ones to me, I will pour everything out into them. I will tell them everything that I know. I will teach them everything so that they can get to where they're called to get to faster than I did. Because it's not really about me, right? It's not about me at all. And I think a lot of people hold on to their gifts, and they hold on to those things that God has given you, not realizing that there's so much more within you.
That's so good. Yeah, they hoard their gifts. They hoard them.
Yes. And so when you do that, you miss out on going from glory to glory. You miss out on the experience of going from another to a whole nother place that he can use you in. I didn't realize that me doing my mentorship program will open the door for me to now become a creative for a AI hair company, you know, and now pouring into that company and helping that company birth out what they're supposed to do and birth out for the world to see. There's so much more that is within you that if you would just actually pour out those things that God has given you into others and be who God has called you for others. But I think the process is everybody needs to heal. There's a lot of healing that has to happen, especially within the Black community. There's a lot of broken hearts, and there's a lot of people that are harboring a lot of hurt in their hearts. And when you have hurt in your heart, it's how it manifests through your business. It manifests on how you treat yourself. It manifests on how you treat others. It manifests on how you treat your clients. All of that stuff manifests when there's brokenness in your heart. And so I believe that if people start to do the work in their hearts, then they'll start to want to be able to help another and support another and lift another up and be part of another story.
Absolutely. One of the things that came to mind when we're talking about like not sharing your gifts, your talents with others, the story of the talents came to mind. The other thing that came to mind is that your gifts are not for you.
No.
They're for others.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was something else that just came to mind. I think that just escaped me right now, but your gifts are not for you. And yes, and the third thing that came to mind as you were just sharing that story, those details, is that sometimes I think as high achievers or entrepreneurs or creatives, we think too linear in our approach. So if like, okay, I want to increase my customer base in makeup, so I'm going to go to a makeup conference. You don't always have to be so linear to open up opportunities. It doesn't even have to be that intentional. You just need to serve. And I think that's one of the most common things that you've talked about on this conversation so far, is just having the attitude of servitude, and then opportunities that you didn't even think of will appear, will come to you.
And it's also your fruits. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people talk about, you know, you'll know them by their fruit, but I'm like, you don't really even know the fruit. Understanding what the fruit is. The fruit is love, joy, peace, long suffering. Even yesterday, I was having a praise break with the Lord, and I was like, oh, this is what long suffering is. My God, you know, when you actually finally recognize what patience is, what long suffering is, what it feels like to be in a place of long suffering. I think that we don't really understand what the fruits look like. We think that someone's fruit is their title, the money that they're making, and their, you know, their platform. But the fruits is actually the character of a person. What is the character looking like? And so if you're not actually working on your character, and you're not working on, like, honestly working on becoming who God, like how when we started this conversation, when God said, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. Your character needs to shift to becoming who he knew when he first formed you in your mother's womb. Because you don't want to get to a place where he's like, nah, I don't even know who you are. What is your character displaying that makes God say, this is not who I called you to be.
Right.
You know, and also our traumas too. I think you said, what is it you said about the gifts making, that our gifts are not for it's not just for us. Our trauma is not also for us. The things that we've been through, the things that we've experienced is not for us too. We don't go through these things. We grow through these things. And so when we are, you know, when we shift our perspective of the things that we've experienced in our lives and see it as something that we're growing through, and God is developing us through it, then we can actually share it as a testimony to somebody. And we can now give that person the intel that they need in order to overcome their thing.
Yes. Love it. In fact, I end each episode with saying, sometimes you don't need to hear anything new. You just need to hear that somebody else went through it too. Right. Right. So you're talking about that testimony. So your trauma is not just for you as well. So Camara, on that note, if you could give one piece of advice to someone that is currently down and out. They're in the valley, as as we've talked about. They're in that rut, that in between phase. What would that like one piece of advice be to that individual that's listening right now or watching?
My one advice would be don't come out of the cocoon too soon. Develop. Let the Lord develop you. Let him build you. Let him mold you. Let him rebuild you. Let him create you. Let him do all the things that he wants to do in you, and shift your perspective from seeing the valley as someplace that is terrible to now seeing it as something that is great. Like going through a valley experience is a great thing because what's birthed out of that is ministry. Because when we think of Christ going through his valley season, when he went through the valley season, his ministry was birthed out from there. He walked right into ministry. He went straight and started to build his disciples and build his crew, his team players, right? And so don't rush out of your valley season until the appointed time, because when the appointed time comes, you can build a ministry that can change people's lives within 3 years the way that Christ did, rather than taking over 6 years to do something that is you're trying to do in your own understanding.
I love that. So first of all, this has been a beautiful conversation. We gave birth to some gems today, girl.
Hey,
we did it. So it's funny because the name of my podcast is 3 Questions. Obviously, I asked more than that, but the 3 questions part actually comes at the end. So fun fact for you, I've been working on it. Hasn't out yet. This is the first time I'm actually introing this on kind of like a public setting. So I've been working on my own kind of conversational card game.
Okay.
But it's different from the typical conversational card games where people mostly use them in kind of like a dating fashion. This one is kind of meant for yourself, because what I discovered, and probably you've come across this too, is that a lot of people are overthinkers, including myself. And so I have on the back of the box here, which is kind of a beta version of it right now. It says, no one talks you into and out of more things than yourself. So 3 Questions card game is a simple to do mental exercise crafted to help you transform your self-talk so that when it truly counts, you are fortified with unwavering belief. So with that being said, the 3 questions I'm going to ask you, I'm going to choose one from this deck, but I have 2 that I'm going to ask you first. And the first one is, if you could attribute one thing that separates you from other makeup artists, what would it be?
My relationship with God. My mantle is very different. A lot of people do love to step into that place of comparison. And I have stepped into, most of my career was built on comparison, comparing myself to other artists. And when I finally stepped into like my own technique, my own experiences, my own calling as an artist, I was able to really embrace who I was and who I'm going to be in the beauty industry.
I love that. Second one. What is a quote, mantra, or Bible verse that you live by currently, that you're in?
That I'm in? Trust in the Lord God with all your heart. Lean not onto your own understanding. In all your ways, if you acknowledge him, he will direct your path.
She was ready, y'all.
Because that verse
right there. That's your verse.
Okay. Like, because a lot of us lead onto our own understandings. Like we all like, no. And the Bible says his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. So sometimes he does it in a way that's just like, what? And he's like, and you got to be like, okay, let me not lean onto my own understanding. I'm just going to do it your way because this is what you want to do.
We all have to subside at one point. So I'm going to pull one card from this deck here. And the question is, what do you need to let go of this year? Or since we're at the end of this year, it could be next year.
This year. What do I need to let go of? Oh my gosh. What I want to let go of is social media. I want to let go. Well, my phone. I feel like there's a slight addiction to having it in my hand.
Absolutely.
And I used to be really good at just like when I go to bed, I would leave it at like in the kitchen, like leave it someplace in another room and or leave it anywhere. And sometimes I'm literally like, and nobody be checking for me. And so I need to like let go of my phone. And that's the thing I need to let go of. I want to let go of my phone, and I want to take that time that I'm on the phone scrolling, because I'm realizing that is also a trauma thing for me. And procrastinating.
I'm with you.
And so it's a trauma response of thinking that whatever God has placed in me, because I just got this in therapy the other day, that whatever God has placed in me, I don't really believe in it. That I don't actually believe, or I don't actually think that it will be what he said it will be. And so I just act like it's not there. But disobedience equals, one of my things that I say a lot is disobedience equals delay. So I'm gonna let go of my phone.
I like that. That's a really good one. I have that same challenge, so I am with you with that. So Camara, this concludes this episode of 3 Questions.
Thank
so
you.
For my listeners, for my audience that would like to get connected with you, possibly hire you or collaborate with you in some way, shape, or form, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Okay. So you could find me on Instagram at CamaraAunique.com. No, Camara Aunique with a C. And TikTok is Camara Aunique Beauty. You can shop at on my website for the lashes. It's CamaraAuniqueBeauty.com. And if you want to book me for speaking engagements to talk on all things beauty and God, I'm definitely open for that. And I will also be, when does this come out? This week or?
I haven't decided yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I am basically open for speaking engagements, makeup. I'm open. I'm open. I'm just in a shift. I'm just in another place, but I'm definitely open for makeup. I do travel to people, so wherever you are, I'm open to traveling to a person. And yeah, I'm open to all things, especially like giving back. So like because I used to be on the board for the YMCA. So if there's any opportunities to like give back to like any domestic violence survivors, thrivers, I like to call them, or cancer thrivers, or women with alopecia, I would definitely love to come in and teach a makeup class or things like that too. So those are things that I've done in the past also.
I love that. And I'll definitely keep that in mind as well. So guys, this concludes this episode of 3 Questions with Corey Kareem. As you guys like to know, I like to end each episode with saying this. Sometimes you don't need to hear anything new. You just need to hear that somebody else went through it too. So with that being said, Camara and myself are out. Peace and love. Until the next time.
Clockwise, 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 clockwise.